Michael Canning and Elizabeth Hargan Canning, and there were two great parents. I think my father had two brothers, and my mother had three brothers and four brothers and one sister. Mm-hmm. And they all came from families, not too large families, but my mother was a hardy person. She loved to sing, loved to waltz around the kitchen. Yeah. Dad was a little bit more quiet. He was not a good dancer. He was a stepper. He used to step out and make long steps when he'd be dancing, and everybody would say, "What is he doing?" And but she was pretty good at dancing, and so we always had a lot of things going on in the house. I seen us dancing around with the half sets around the kitchen, and my mother was lilting. And if anybody knows what lilting was, you'd have to look it up. But she was lilting, and everybody was dancing. And we had a lot of visitors coming around the house continually, people coming in at night. And so it was a hearty kind of a house where there was lots of things going on at all times. I was the oldest. Michal was next after me. I was born in 1935. Michal was born in 1939. Maureen was born in 1944. And Lily was born in 1947. Church was important to us. My dad always went to 8 o'clock Mass on a Sunday, get up in the morning and shave and walk around the kitchen and shave and get ready for Mass with a shirt and tie and go off to Mass. And my mother would usually go to later Mass sometimes because he would go and be at Mass, and then she'd take care of us, and while she was taking care of us, and then she would go to a later Mass, and then we would have dinner, usually. I remember going to school there, going to school out in Ahagrania, which was away from town. They wouldn't send us to town because it was not the best place to go at that particular time. It was the town. It was better off to go to school in the country. So we went to Ahagrania School, which was a 2-room school. Wasn't the best pupil in the world. I was not the best for homework. I think I was made do it a lot of times. Father was working, as I said before, my father was working on the county council. I guess he picked up a barrel of something or other. He picked it up and he broke a spine, had a spine injury, let's put it that way. When summer ended and I was supposed to go back to school, I was told that I was the breadwinner at that particular time. So I had to stop school and stay working, because at that time he was out of work because of getting hurt, and they weren't paying him because he wasn't working. So I had to pick up the slack, if you will, at that time. And I continued working, never finished school at all. It was a disappointment, but not a huge disappointment, because I enjoyed what I was doing. And at 18, I decided I was going to quit the county council because my father got back on his feet again, and I was not the breadwinner anymore. So I got a job in Gill's Garage in Carrick and Shannon. And I was going to be a mechanic working there. But sometime between the years of 18 and 19, I decided I wanted to go to America because I wasn't happy with what I was doing. There was no money coming in because I was an apprentice. I convinced my father to write to his brother, John. And John lived in New Haven, John and Mona. Wrote to them. It took me probably most of a year from the time that the first initial conversation about me coming to America. It took me about a year to get here. So I came here around 19. Well, that was the place to go. There was England, there was fine, would be okay. If I didn't get to America, I would have gone to England, most likely, because that was the place everybody was going. There was hardly anybody my age staying around the area anyway at that time, because there was no work for them. So that's the way it was. So I got the job. I got the call from Uncle John here in America to go. And I went through all the things I had to do, go to Dublin for an exam, for a physical exam, mental exam, all kinds of exams. You spent 2 days up there in Dublin. And I finally got the word that I was going to go. And before I realized what I was doing, I felt dizzy. The boat started to move and I got sick. And I went to my bunk and I lay there for 6 days. I think all they brought me was ginger ale for that particular time. And I must have lost 10 pounds, maybe more. Who knows how much? I never checked really, but I never eat anything because I was just sick all the time. Arrived in New York, and John and Mona was there. Met them, and they took me. We came home by train. John wouldn't never drive to New York. That was completely out. So we got on the train, and we came back to New Haven, and I lived with them for 5 years.
Okay.
First of all, we were living at 380 Edgewood Avenue in New Haven. And they had central heat in that house. And it seemed to be very high. I would stick my head out the window or out the door just to get some cool air because I wasn't used to that kind of thing. And that would happen every now and then. And they'd say, "Why are you opening the door and letting in the cold?" And I'd say, "Well, I got to get some air." And that was the way I lived the first few months. And of course, then I got used to it. And Mona were great, two great people. John, they were opinionated. They couldn't understand. After a while, I was, of course, it didn't take me long to get out and going to dances and things. And apparently they never did much of it because they couldn't understand why I could be out until like 1 o'clock in the morning at a dance, because dances went on at 12, 1 o'clock. And try and be up the next morning to go to work. They weren't into that very much. But they were two great people, great people to live with. I lived with them for most of the 5 years prior to getting married. You know, it was easy because everybody, there was a club in New Haven, and that was down off of State Street. And you go there on Saturday night and dance. Now, I never got to much dances in Ireland, but I caught on to it after a while. And there was a big crowd of people exactly like me, had just come 6 months, a year ago, whatever, 2 years ago. Well, I couldn't wait to find a job. And the first job I found was in Westville. The company was Greist, G-R-E-I-S-T, I think it was. They made sewing machine parts. Finally got out. I remember June of '57, I believe it was, I went to work for Western Electric in West Haven. And went there, worked there for a while. I remember the first day I went there, we got a break at 10 o'clock. I never worked in a factory. It was kind of a factory operation, but not really like the one I had been in before. We got a break at 10 o'clock in the morning. And everybody went outside to sit outside for the 15 minutes we got the break. And this fella walked over, come over to me, sat down beside me, because I was sitting alone. I knew nobody. Nobody knew me, obviously. But this fella walked over. It was Tommy Kelly. Sorry. Tommy sat, excuse me. Tommy sat down beside me, told me where he was from, Wisconsin. And we were friends forever after that. Anyway, we both worked there. He had got there before me, just a few months before me, and there was the next person then was Kevin Glancy. Excuse me. And Mike Bowen was there as well. Then Johnny Armstrong was there. Then Finbar Moynihan was there. A whole bunch of us. Tim Casey was the foreman of the place. And they used to say that Tim went to the boat to collect us and bring us to work. Well, I don't know what I really thought about it. I thought everything was perfect before I ever came here. That I'd seen people come home from America, Robert Pagnam and people like that came home to visit while I was still 14, 15, 16. And they were all well-dressed, well-groomed, well everything. Had money in their pocket, or at least seemed that way. So I thought I'd like to be like that. And so I thought, I've made it now. This is where I want to be. I met Teresa, I believe it was at St. Brendan's Church in New Haven. It was on Whaley Avenue in New Haven at that time. And met her a few times, talked to her, and ultimately she mentioned she had a sister coming to New Haven. And that sister was in England at the time she was coming from. She had been working in England for a short period of time. And ultimately, this girl did come. She showed up, and met her on, I think it was on a Sunday afternoon after Mass. Ultimately went over, I think it was on Sylvan Avenue, they lived at that time. And that was the first time I met Bridie. Well, met her, she was cool. Cool and calm, as they say, probably. And met her, and that particular day, I believe it was a Sunday afternoon. And I think a while later we met her, like a week later maybe. Ultimately we went to a movie or something, and ultimately we became closer, and we were out seriously then after a while. Went out like probably once a week maybe, or thereabouts, and I don't know, just developed into a relationship, and going from there. We went to dances. She liked to dance, and I would like to dance as well, and we went to dances in the club. And there was a club down off of State Street at that time.
Serious?
Well, probably in 60, thereabouts. You know, I was starting to get settled in my job and so on and so forth, and she was working. She had several different things in her time over those few years. And then I guess we decided we'd get married. So we, probably in late 60s or thereabouts, we decided, and then we kind of set a date. And that was it. The planning started shortly after we decided we were going to get married. And we had a lot of friends here, but not that many, and I didn't have that much family. I had John and Mona, obviously. But then Mom and Dad couldn't come over because it was prohibitive for them to come over. We didn't have a lot of money by any means. And we decided that was the right thing to do, to go back and get married over there. Well, first of all, we met my family first. And they were very happy with her because she was a nice person, and down-to-earth person, if you will. And she was a looker, let me tell you. And they liked that too. And by that I mean she was a good-looking person, or is a good-looking person. Well, I met Tom and Mary Agnes, very nice people, obviously, and we got along well, and there never seemed to be any situations of any kind.
Were you nervous about meeting them? What was your
Oh yeah, you would think about it. You drive up to the house and you're waiting to see what the reaction is going to be. But it didn't seem to be on my mind much at the time. It was just, we were coming and that was it, it was. And we got to the 27th of September. The 26th of September, I was sick as could be because I was exhausted in every possible way because of the run around. So we got, 27th came and we were in the church, and the ceremony was being done and Mass was being said, and I passed out. And we went to Jeter's Hotel and had a very good, I think Michal and there was a couple of other guys playing accordions. We had good music. And we had a good meal, and that was it. Nash Street, 90 Nash Street in New Haven for a period of time. We had that apartment rented before we went, obviously. Yeah, it was. And we lived there, and Teresa moved in with us. Ultimately, I think Bridie looked around for other places to live, and we moved to, what is it, Boulevard, 1499 Boulevard, I think it was. And that was where we started to live there. We lived there until we moved to Hamden in '68. Annie was with us. So Annie and Maureen were living with us, and Michal sometimes. He had come into the picture as well. So we had all three of them at one time. As you know yourself, when you get married, you settle down and you move on in life, as we tried to move on in life, earlier even. We moved on from me being in Edgewood Avenue to being married and so on and so forth. It's just another step. So that was it.
And you have all these people around you.
We have all those people around us. And John and Mona would come and visit us, and Mike and Anna Fallon would come to visit every Saturday night. And we were kind of, there was somebody there almost all the time. Remember when Michal was living with us, and when we got the word that we should be leaving to go to the hospital to have Sean, Michal went out and started shoveling snow outside the door because the car was outside in the street on the boulevard. And he was out shoveling the snow, and we went to the hospital, and before we knew it, Sean was born.
Now we're ready.
Well, Sean was born healthy and fine, and we took him home in 2 or 3 days, whatever it was. And he was doing great. And we started to notice that I think his temperature was going up and things of that nature. It just wasn't right. And Sean was rushed into the hospital, and we were told he had meningitis. And we couldn't believe it, that he was having this disease we probably never heard of. And he lingered for a while, and they had many, many discussions about him, what was happening to him. And he was having seizures and things of that nature with it, apparently. And that's when the damage occurred. So we got him home, and he was doing okay, for a long time, but we knew he wasn't right because he had lost oxygen in his brain. So he was about 3 to 4 weeks old at that time. It started to hit us that he had a problem, because we knew that there was a problem, and because of the loss of it. It was explained to us. We had no idea what the loss of oxygen can do. All I was thinking about was doing the best we could and just get him as good a life as he could. Oh, it was harrowing, very difficult. Bridie she had to stop working, obviously, and look after him, and it was difficult. Well, it was time to think about moving out of the apartment we were in on the boulevard. And I don't know, we found the house somehow. Evergreen Avenue was very backward at that time. There was hardly any cars up and down the avenue. It was very bleak and very bad. But somehow we found the house, and it was like $18,500. So we moved in July of '68, and got moved in and got settled, and next thing we had a child in our hands again. The radio show started, how it started was, I was promoting something with John O'Donovan. John was very active, as he still is. John is very active in the Irish societies. And he had got me kind of roped into the same thing. And we were promoting something, I can't remember exactly what it was. And I said to John one time, I said, John, we need some kind of radio program in this area. We don't have anything. We had nothing at the time like that. This is 1975 now. And he said to me, looked at me straight in the face and said, why don't you start it yourself? I said, no, I don't want to do that. I have no experience in that. And that was all was said at that particular time. And probably soon after I began to think about it, and I thought, why not? So I looked around to find what I could, and I found a station in Milford, the mall in Milford. It was WFIF 1500 on the AM dial. First morning I went in to do the program was on a Saturday morning, and I walked into the studio in Milford. I had about 5 records in my hand, under my arm, if you will. They were the long playing records. And I went in there and I was expecting that somebody else was going to do it. I was providing the music, if you will. And the guy said, no, you're doing it. I am. That's where it started. Put me in front of the microphone, turned a few knobs. That time it was turning knobs. And went on the air. I guess it meant quite a bit because we were the only show around for a lot of years. And there was a great need for radio at that particular time because there was many events going on that people need promotion and you needed to get the word out. And probably half of the show was taken up with promoting events. That meant, to me, it meant a lot that I was doing at least my small part in keeping the community alive.
And a very good Sunday morning, everybody. This is Sean Canning along with Brendan, and we'll be here at about 11 o'clock to bring you the best of the sounds of Ireland. Lots of things lined up for you, lots of information, of course, about things going on in the area, and lots of good music. So right now, let's start off with Brendan Shine, and he's going to do something called Just a Memory.
The week was good. We stayed around Kenbeg mostly, Bridie's home place. And we had a very good time. We called a few times to see how things were going, and things were going. We always got a good report. And we were feeling good about it. We come back to the airport in JFK, and I called, and we had a car picking us up. And I called, and I said we'd be there in about 2 hours. And the guy stopped talking to me on the phone. And I called back. And another guy came on the phone from the same number and told me that he had passed away. I could not believe it. Just could not believe it. So I sat down to try to figure out what was going to be next. And I obviously had to start because the car was waiting for us. Went out into the car, and all I could do was sit back in the car and not talk. I just couldn't bring it out. Could not mention it. And I thought, how am I going to handle this? How am I going to break this news? So we came home to 799 Evergreen. And it was chaos. Well, I remember how they took over, basically. We had Joan Kennedy, we had Kathleen O'Donovan, we had Mary Begley. People came to the house that was supportive to us. Just to mention a few, there's certainly a lot more as well as that. But, you know, it's something that I probably haven't been able to remember some of it because it was so bitter to take. Well, it all started through the radio. Bea Nealon was the owner of Nealon Travel, and she called me and said, I need some people outside, salespeople. And I said, sure, why not, you know. And I remember the word got out pretty fast because I was able to advertise it on the radio. She decided at some time in the 80s that she would like to sell the business. She came to me and said, I'm going to close, but you can get an option to buy it. I said, yeah, that would be good. So I came home and I told Bridie we were going to buy a travel agency. And she said, what? We got the money together somehow and we purchased the business. And in the meantime, I was still doing my regular job. Plus I was doing limousine driving. And so there was a lot of action. Bridie was very busy with 2 children, one with special needs. I don't know why I continue to do it. I'm doing it up to this day. But see, I got to know the country pretty well. Didn't know anything about it before, but I learned a lot about it as time went on. And we went to various places over the years, and I was able to retain the knowledge I gained both from the people there and also from the people that I dealt with that we had working for us while we were there. We had guides, we had bus drivers, and I would pick their brains, if you will, on all of that and know how to operate those things. So then we expanded out of there to travel to Europe. I did France, I did Italy, Austria, Switzerland. Went to Lourdes a good many times with groups. We went to Medjugorje with groups over the years. It's been very good because she likes to travel too. And we've seen a lot of places, a lot of things. Things we wouldn't probably have done if we hadn't gone that route in our lives. And it's been exhilarating. Well, you hear about places that you might have heard about them when you were younger or whatever the case might be. We took a train ride from Paris down to Lourdes in a train that was going 100 miles an hour. I never thought I would do that. So a lot of things came up over the years that was wouldn't have been done, wouldn't have been a part of if we hadn't been in the travel business. And I kind of thought that ultimately that would be a match, if you will. And I guess I was right in thinking that. So I remember her coming in. We were very happy indeed to see that development because it was kind of written in stone in my mind, plus it happened for real. So it was good. John comes along. I remember the day very well.
Tell me about that.
Well, we got the call to go down to head to the hospital, and you were ahead of us down 91. I remember it distinctly. It was in the dark in the morning. And we got 2 Cinerafields, and we waited there for the period of time, whatever length of time it was. And you came out and you whizzed past us and you said, Sean Francis was born, so that was the first we heard of it.
And how did it make you feel?
Well, that was very interesting to see that we had a young man in the family again, and that was very exciting. Let's put it that way. It was new to us, obviously, because that was our first grandchild. But Sean was always a great kid in a lot of ways, because he had his own way of. And you know Sean when you are taking care of him or something else, he can be a very good kid and very interesting kid in a lot of ways because of his various moods and everything else. But when you get to know Sean, he's right. I'm very proud of Brendan. And he caught on to everything really fast, and he's just a learner. Well, we have, I think. We're good friends, for one thing. We would go to dinner every once in a while, and we would share some things, including the dessert. We would have one big dessert with the two of us, and we got our spoons in there, and we just ate away. Great potential, that kid. He has the potential to become anything he wants to be. It was a surprise. 7 years, quite a long time, but we're happy to hear it, obviously. All of a sudden, we had a little girl in our hands, and that was nice to hear. People do ask me if I have a granddaughter, and I just say, well, she's in recent years 9, but even when she was 5, I would say, well, we have a granddaughter and she's 5 going on 25, sort of thing, because she's so smart. I mean, she's so up with everything. She's into school, she's good. I can tell she's a good student. I can tell she's a good everything around the house, and she has wonderful potential. I think she can be anything she wants to be as well. But besides that, she has a wonderful life, and she is perfect little girl. But yes, it's been a good life. I was blessed to have met Bridie when I did, and we were just, I suppose, kind of made for each other in a lot of ways, because we think mostly the same way about most everything. We got through a lot over the years. We did the best we could with everything. We were the entertainers in the family, I think, a lot of times, because we've had our Christmases and our picnics and our everything else, and Bridie keeps going with that. She just loves having people around and taking care of them. And she just loves to have family around. It's so nice that we have you guys so close to us, because it's just a 2-minute walk from our house to your house, maybe even less than that. But she could do it faster than I could, obviously. But no, it was the life that I'm very proud of, very happy with. And when I'm gone, I probably will say to myself, it was good. It was a good run. And I hope that if I ever come back, it would be a good run the next time around.
And
these streets are empty now, where I used to live, they're just a memory. Friends I used to know, they all long to stray, now they're just a memory. Ah, the games that we played at the top of our street, no cares on our minds, no shoes on our feet, but we've all gone away, never more to meet, leaving behind just a memory. Music filled the air, songs full of tears, songs full of laughter. At night when neighbors called, whatever the time, it never did matter. How they sang and they danced into the night, as we peeked through the door with childish delight. Then we're chased back to bed with a bit of a fright that always brings back a memory. These streets are empty now, where I used to live, they're just a memory. Friends I used to know, they all long to stray, now they're just a memory. Ah, the games that we played at the top of our street, no cares on our minds, no shoes on our feet, but we've all gone away, never more to meet, leaving behind just a memory.